Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today, the man who is thoughts become things, Neo Positivity. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
Our good friend Debbie G is stuck in an auto repair shop today. She got a nail in the tire. So, yeah, we're probably not going to be seeing her this week, but we will, of course, see her next week. But the good news is our friend Neo Positivity has reemerged from all the places he's been flying to and going to and traveling to and beaching to. It's good to see you again, my friend. How you been?
Life is good, brother. Life is good. This law of attraction, this whole law of attraction thing, it is a doozy.
It is. It really is. Yeah, no doubt about that. And you've been doozying it up lately. I mean, because you've had a lot of cool stuff you've been working on and doing and having fun with and so forth.
Nashville, St. Louis, Denver, beaches, tour buses, and now a summit tomorrow. So yeah, it's just been a healthy ride.
That's right. You got a summit coming up tomorrow. We'll do a little bit at the end, but give us a little preview. Anybody we know who's coming to it?
We've got Elizabeth Gold. I believe you had her on your show. Ellie Fitzgerald. I'm sorry, it's Hope Fitzgerald and Elizabeth Gold. Gary Malkin, 7-time Emmy Award winner. Nate Zalesnik from the Netflix series Superhumans. Katie Chonacas, we interviewed her here. She's a Hollywood actress. Just landed another big gig. Vanessa Emberson, she's #1 speaker coach in the whole dental realm. Emily Somerset and Robert, I forgot his last name, Emily's husband. They're going to be in there too.
We'll just call him that,
They're, the Scott Roberts, that's what it is. They'll be in there too. So I booked up a great lineup of 6 speakers, and then I met wonderful people after that. Like Sandee, that are just, I can't wait till my next summit to, put their information out there. I might do them every 6 months now. Like I was doing them every month before. So it was just jump in, but now I'm doing them every 6 months. So I want to make sure I get enough in there. I don't know. I may do another one in October.
Yeah, this guy's like the king of the summits. In addition to being thoughts become things, this guy hits summits out of the park. It's just unbelievable what he does. But fortunately, we don't have to wait until your next summit to get to know Sandee. Let's get to know her right now. This is Sandee Sgarlata. Sandee is an author. She's a coach. She has a lot of things going for her. But one of the things I love going for her the best is the title of her previous book, not one that's coming out now, but the one that's previous to it, Happiness Solved. Climbing 100 Steps. I love that because we do your daily dose of happy. If you're going to have a guest on your daily dose of happy, it might as well be a happiness expert. So Sandee, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Walt and Neo. It's so great to finally meet you both in person. Well, this is, in today's world, this is kind of like in person, right?
It's virtually in person. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If I can see you and hear you, it's in person.
It is.
I've met so many amazing people. And then when we do finally meet in person, it's like, makes it that much better.
Yeah. So how did you get onto the happiness kick? I got to ask you that first and foremost.
Oh, wow. So, it's been a lifelong journey, of course, as all of our journeys are. It really started with a project that I was doing, for a class when I was working towards my bachelor's degree. I finally finished it 35 years after I graduated from high school.
Wow.
So it's never too late.
No.
And I had to put together a company, and I just started writing, and I've been a life coach, certified life coach since 2004. I'd been doing it many years prior to that. And so I'm writing this out and I'm like, this is a book. And I put it on hold for a little bit. And in 2019, when I was dropping my son off at college, it was like the floodgates opened up. And when I write, it doesn't stop. Like it's almost like downloaded information. And I just, and,
that's when you find out how fast of a typist you really are, right?
Oh, I know, right?
Tap into the source. A direct tap to the source.
Direct tap.
Right. So I couldn't come up with a title. And in my corporate world, I had come across this company called Recruiting Solved because I'm a recruiter. I'm like, I love that. And I have this t-shirt my son would wear and everything. So it was always in front of me. And I was like, I've already finished the book by that point. And I was like, happiness solved. And then I added the climbing 100 steps, and there's a story behind that. That's a metaphor. So it really comes back to the climbing 100 steps. When I was young, when I was 12 years old, we lived on the Severn River outside of Annapolis, and there was 100 steps that led from the river dock up to the house. And it was my happy place. And it was because I was also an amateur figure skater. Every time I climbed the steps, I could hear the Rocky song, and it was such a challenge, and I'd be running up it. So one day, it was actually September 30th, 1978. I found out I was climbing the 100 steps with a girlfriend, found out that my brother tragically died while serving in the U.S. Army. And my whole life came crumbling down. And so I ended up hitting rock bottom with cocaine abuse in January of 1990. And that was the first day of me just wanting to get back to the happy feeling I felt while climbing the 100 steps. So it's a metaphor, but there's some, because I think what started when we first moved there was like a few years younger. It was like 1, 2, 3. That was a game for me to count the steps. So that's how I know there literally was 100 steps.
Okay.
So I've been on that journey, and everything I talk about in my book is how I live my life and have lived my life for 32 years, going
That's
on 33.
I love that. Well, I love how, you, like so many people, have discovered happiness after a crash and burn. I've been there. I think just about everybody who's ever been a guest on this show has been there. There's something about going through a crash and burn. All of a sudden you feel like things are worthwhile in a way that they weren't worthwhile before.
Yeah.
You appreciate more, to put it in a short vernacular, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. And that's why this book, I felt like it had to come out. That wasn't even the first traumatic thing that happened in my life. It was probably the third or fourth. And I had a slew of things even after I have been on this journey. And that's just life, because every time we're facing an extreme challenge, we grow. And that's what we're here for. I just had a podcast guest yesterday, and we had a whole conversation about that, because he really goes into the science behind it. Mm-hmm. And it was so fascinating, because I was like, the purpose of everyone is growth, whether you're a plant, a seed you put in the ground, a dog, animal, like it's about growth. And that's why it's so great when you get to the other side of some sort of traumatic experience you have in your life, that you get to a point. And of course, you're building that muscle. I've been building that muscle since I was in the womb. Okay. And I'm not going to tell you how many years I've been on this planet, but, you can just guess and figure it out, think about it. But, it's like a muscle, and it's growing and it's strong. It gets stronger. When you get to the other side, you really full to embody and embrace, this happened for me, not to me.
Yeah. And that's really the trick, isn't it? Coming to that terms with that fact. It's something that we don't think of as a fact. We think of it as an impossibility. That's usually where we start. Right. And then over time, we perhaps come to terms with it. And then you get far enough along the path, you look far enough back, and you begin to realize that there really was a fact there all along that you didn't really recognize was there before.
Yeah. But to bring back what you said in the beginning, is most people reach that point after they have some sort of tragedy or trauma in their life. I wrote this book because I don't want people to have to go through that. Like, if your life is good, stop chasing after the new car and the better partner and the things that you think are going to make you happy, because your time is now. It's now. Don't wait for the new job or the promotion. Find the happy in everyday things, because life is so short and you don't know when it's going to be taken from you. We don't know, right?
And then the odd part is that when you do finally get there, then the things show up.
Yeah, because that's when the law of attraction comes into play. I mean, duh.
It's funny. I'll say two things.
We attract what we put out there, so.
One of the biggest sayings that stuck with me since the beginning of learning about the law of attraction was, don't make this moment just a means to an end. Mm-hmm. This next moment, no matter what it is, the new car, the new house, can't be more important than this one right here, because that one isn't certain for one. You might feel disappointed if we set a timeline for two. So I absolutely love that. But everybody, at the same time, real quick, Just say your age. Ready? Go.
I'm 65.
41.
56. There we go.
That's
I'm proud of
65
it.
inverted.
There you go. And I'm proud of it. So proud of it. Like, hey.
That's dope. No, I love that.
Because up here.
Wait, Neo. No, you can't get out of it that easily, Neo.
What's that?
You just put the challenge up. You can't just put it up and say, I'm not participating.
I said 41. You know,
you did. Okay,
I'm 1 year from my magic number, 42. I'm 42 in March. That's my number.
Why is 42 magical? I'm curious.
I don't know. It's just been a number that's followed me my whole life.
Okay.
It was my dad's old football number. The highway we drove down every day. His badge number ended up being 420.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just followed me everywhere. I got it tattooed on my arm. And now that we've talked about it, I guarantee I'm going to look at my clock right at 4:42. Like everybody's going to see 42 somewhere in the next 6 hours. I guarantee it.
And you'll see it a few times a day, right?
Yeah.
There it is. And every time I see it, that's like another, I use plenty of things as reminders to wake up, but that's another one. Like, ooh, 42, wake up, step out of everything, get grounded. All right, I'm here in this moment. And then back to whatever email I was working on.
Love it.
But you got to do that. You got to separate yourself as often as you can remember to.
A couple other things about 42, by the way. That was Jackie Robinson's number when he was a baseball player.
Yes.
And it's also the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah.
You feel like that?
If you ask Google, what's the answer to life? It's going to say 42.
42. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because not that I don't study numbers, but numbers are so important in our lives, and we all have our own numbers that mean something to us. Mine was 44, and I know it's a very spiritual number, but I was wondering what 42 was because it's just wasn't in my awareness. So thank you. Because I'd be like dying, like I want to Google it right now. And
it's just a me thing. I don't think you'll find anything on it except for the whole answer to life thing. But yeah, it's just been my number. 7 times 6 is 42. That's the only high multiplication number I could remember when I was younger.
I love it. I love it.
Only thing above 3, maybe 4 that I was getting when I was in first grade or whatever. So yeah.
I went ahead and Googled it because I've got 2 screens up here. And MIT University, they wrote this September 10th, 2019, the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Woo!
Yeah. Well,
there you go.
That was based on a series of books by Douglas Adams. And
The Hitchhiker's Guide to
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. My friend Louis D'Souza, who does the Monday shows with me and Anne Marie Young, describes that series beautifully. He says it's the best collection of rubbish ever written. And that's pretty much what it is.
Have you read it?
All of it, yes. There's actually 5 volumes.
Books? Oh.
No, there's 5 books. There's 5 books, but 42 is the answer to the ultimate question of life. Because they want to understand what is the answer to everything. Because we're all looking for these ultimate answers, right? And so they actually build a computer to find out, a massive computer to find out what the answer is. And on the day that the answer is ready to come out, everybody shows up. There's TV crews and everything. And one of the representatives of all this isn't just Earth. This is like, massive numbers of planets around the universe and so forth. They're all tuned in to find out what the answer is. And the computer says, you're not going to like it. The answer is 42. And everybody says, oh my God, we just realized we forgot to ask what the ultimate question was. So they build another computer to find out what the ultimate question is. And the computer that they build is the planet Earth.
Oh, wow.
The best rubbish ever written. Absolutely the best rubbish ever written.
That sounds like a great movie. That doesn't sound like the movie they made out of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But
it was, it's like any movie. You have to cut it down, right? You can't get the whole book in. But if you listen carefully, that actually is included in the movie. It's just kind of, they zip past it kind of quick.
Nice.
But anyway, back to our guest, Sandee. Well, first of all, I have to congratulate you because you've fallen right into the mode that we fall into here of just raising vibe, getting into the happiness space. So
Absolutely.
Welcome, and you're doing a beautiful job.
Thank you.
Vibe up, baby. Vibe up.
Vibe up. There you go. So let's.
I just made that up, by the way. I just want everybody to know. As of this moment, that's me.
Okay, so copyright 2022 Neopositivity. Got it.
Vibe up.
Yep. All right. It's all yours. So you went through the crash and burn. You went through the rebirth. You started learning to appreciate stuff that you'd never really appreciated before, and found good things coming out of that. Got into the life coaching, and give us like a little 1-minute biography of what's happened since then, because that's the part we often skip over. We talk about how we got there, how we got to the place, but then what was life afterward?
Life afterward was I'll sum it up very, very briefly. After that, I got married, was in an oil and vinegar kind of relationship. That's all I like to say, because my ex-husband and I are very, very good friends.
Great.
And we're like brother and sister. So that's really great.
That's
I had 4 miscarriages and 1 child. So I lost 4 babies. That was really rough. And then the most challenging thing thus far in my life, out of everything else and everything I had done led up to that moment. And that is my ex-husband was driving drunk, hit a motorcycle and killed 2 people.
Oh.
And it was 2 weeks after my son's 13th birthday. And so to see my son on his hands and knees crying and punching the floor was just, your heart gets ripped out. So that was in 2013. My ex-husband went to prison in 2014. He was a very, very award-winning top lawyer in his field, in his sector of law that he practiced. And he just got out of prison December.
Wow.
So my son was 13 when he went to prison, and when he got out, my son was 21.
Yeah.
And so I was stuck in a place of how on earth am I going to raise this child, this little boy, with this thing hanging over his head. And we did it. He's going into his senior year of college. He's had great internships every summer. He's got his head on. Him and his father have rebuilt their relation. I mean, they had a great relationship the whole time, but there was a few years where my son refused to talk to him. And so, but now, he's a man and they have an amazing relationship. He spent the whole summer with him,
Nice.
Which was great. I mean, he lives locally, but my son stayed the whole summer with him and because they needed that time to reconnect. And, everything is going great. And we're still picking up the pieces. And, my son still knows that at some point he's going to have to go into therapy, and he's just not ready. I'm like, that's okay, but he's in check. And he's, because of my experiences, I know that he will never use cocaine. He's in college and that's still a very big thing today. And so, he's good. He's good. So so that's what happened after, but still, I still wake up every day and I'm happy because I know that these things have happened for me, not to me. And it's just made me such a stronger person. And as a matter of fact, one of my coaching clients that I'm going to be seeing tomorrow, is a 19-year-old boy who's really struggling. I work with some elite athletes and so I'm going to go and sit down and talk with them and I'm not getting paid for this or anything, I'm just going to go and just be there for him, because I've done that with my son for so many years. And it's just, it's part of my mission and my passion to help other people and to be there for people when they need it, So.
I like the story for a number of reasons, not the least of which is you didn't live happily ever after without going through a lot of pain, but you still lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
You did both.
Well, because it's a choice. It's a choice we have every single day. It's a choice. And while you still have this big thing that seemed bigger than life, right? Because whenever you experience something that, my gosh, who do you know, right? That has happened to. Not many people, we live in a part of the world, fortunately, where, I'm in the DC metro area. We live in a bubble here. We're almost recession proof. It's very different than in a lot of other parts of the country. And so, there was that too. of my son going to high school and like, oh, it was a stigma for him and not wanting to talk about it. And, why is your dad not at the football game? But of course, everybody knew in the whole everybody knew what had happened, and it was his dad, Right. But anyway, it's still, you have a choice every day. And I had a choice to make because I wanted to be the example for my son that, yes, this happened, but it's not who we are. And as a matter of fact, my son, in his college essay, he wrote how he experienced the tragedy. And if I could just read it really quickly.
Sure.
Because it's just really profound that he was 15 or 16 when he wrote this. He wrote, so he, in the chapter of my book, I felt as though it was not my story to tell because it's my ex-husband. So my son, he wrote this college essay 3 years before I even really focused on the book.
Sure.
And I asked him if I could put it in there, and he was like, absolutely. So the very last paragraph, he says, my mother always says everything happens for a reason. And I truly believe this because without the accident, I would have been spoon-fed my whole life. Because of the accident, I am independent and I make smarter choices. Most importantly, I learned that life happens in moments and that you cannot let one moment ruin the rest.
Ooh. Wow.
That's nice.
That's a young man.
I love to share that because that was a little boy that wrote that, and
well,
it's like, wow.
I would describe him as a young man. I mean, he may have been in his
yeah.
teens, but I'm telling you, that was a young man who basically did a lot of learning. I don't know if he'll ever go into therapy. Maybe he will, but it sounds like he's done some therapy. It sounds like he's done work on himself, which is really what the whole point of therapy is.
Right.
Yeah. Whether he's been looking at YouTube or sitting in the room just thinking about where his thoughts go. He's been doing work.
He has.
Yeah.
You don't draw that conclusion without doing it. But I didn't go through all the traumatic events that you guys had went through, but my process was like the same way. I wasn't relying on the internet and books. I was asking myself things and seeing what I said and why I said that, and then say something else and tweak it a little bit. And that's how you really learn about yourself.
Yeah.
That's the people I try to have speak at my summits. If you don't do that, then I don't want you there.
Well, here's the thing. Trauma is trauma. Right? You can't compare, this was this was worse than that one, or this one was worse than that one, because however you're experiencing, it's the first time for you.
Right.
And pain is pain. Pain, you can't say this pain hurts more than that pain, because if it's the first time you're experiencing it, then it's real. It hurts. It's hard.
It's actually an incomplete statement. The complete statement is this hurts more than that from whose perspective?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get a different answer from every person.
That's right. That's right.
And they can't put themselves truly in that situation, because to really put yourself in someone's situations, you will have had to went through every single thing they went through in their entire life.
Right.
That's right.
And experience what they did. So I think that's a huge gap in parenting today. And the mistake that I've made over and over again was thinking my kids are thinking like me. And they're not. They ain't been what I've been through. They don't know the law of attraction like I do. They don't know the streets like I do. So it's, we got to factor all that in when you're talking to everybody for better conversations.
By the way, Sandee, Neo's a former police officer, so he has that kind of experience to work with. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for your service. That's incredible.
Thank you. That's so kind. I love it when people say that. I always say thank you for your service to any first responders, paramedics, firemen. They're all out there risking their lives on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
And when it snows outside and they shut the whole city down, you still got to show up to work.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
And the pandemic comes, the cops, and they still got to show up, So, shout out to them.
I'm also thinking, too, about how, as a former police officer, you saw a lot of the kinds of things that her husband went through. And you didn't get to see what happened afterward. In most cases, I would think. For you, mostly it was deal with the emergency, do what has to be done as an officer, and maybe show up in court at some point. And that was about it.
That's it. They send you to the next call right after that.
Yeah. So you really don't have. I'm making this sound worse than it is in some ways, but you don't really have closure on any of them.
I don't know if I like that. I don't know if that's it, and I'm willing to entertain it, because if there's something buried deep I don't know about, I want to get it out. But yeah, I never gave a second thought to, like, I've been on plenty of motorcycle accidents, because they most of them end fatally. So all the ones that happened in Camden, when I was working, I was there for them. Quads, dirt bikes, go-karts, whatever it was. And as soon as the scene is done, I get sent to the next job, gun job, domestic, alarm. I never thought about the family members of the driver of the vehicle. And so this is really eye-opening for me to hear you talk about this, Sandee, and your son and what he went through, and being in a small town where everything gets to everyone's ears and it's not soon forgotten. That's a lot. When you said that, you were putting pieces to a puzzle together, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So,
well, because two people died, and I can never forget the fact that two people lost their lives, Yeah. And it was horrible. It was tragic. And there's always another side to it. There's more sides to it.
Did you ever think about moving?
No.
No,
my son didn't want to. He didn't want to. Okay. He didn't want to. As a matter of fact, today I was talking with one of my clients that I work with, because right now I'm working with amateurs. So I'm talking with the parent. And I told her, I said, how long have you been in this county? And she goes, 11 years. I go, do you remember today? And she goes, yeah. I go, that's my ex-husband. She's like, oh my God. Yeah. But see, most people don't relate it. You know what I mean? That sure. They're like, oh my God. Oh my gosh. Sgarlata. Yeah. Yeah.
They don't have the same associations that you have. So how could they?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go back to the topic of coming through something like this. And you came to some really advanced, amazing conclusions over time. Guide us through how you got there.
Oh, a lot of reading, a lot of listening to books on tape, a lot of workshops, a lot of meditating, meditation retreats, yoga. I think running a marathon was really cool, because when I was training, I was listening to audiobooks. It was I just became a self-help junkie. Yeah. So there wasn't one thing. It's all of it. I've studied the law of attraction for many, many years. As a matter of fact, Neo, this is what's kind of funny. In 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably up till 2009, when I would get on stage and talk, or when I would put together a workshop, what I didn't know until The Secret came out. Do you remember The Secret, the movie?
Yeah.
It wasn't until that came out that I realized that I had been talking about and teaching the law of attraction, and I didn't even know it was
the whole
a thing.
time.
I was like, there's a name for this?
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, where have I been? Like, what rock have I been? But it just made sense to me. I was teaching the law of attraction and didn't even know it.
Did you have a label for it? Did you have a name for it?
It was like, I had a workshop. I'm sure I still have the notes and handouts, because this was so long ago. You gave handouts and stuff like that.
Right.
It was like creating the life you desire. It was something like that. It was just like creating your best life, so that's what I would talk about and teach and some people would look at me like I had 5 heads. I'm like, what are you talking about? But then others would, you'd have some people leave the room, but then I'd have 20 people standing in line to talk to me about it, because it was like, I love what you're saying, because they had never heard about it either. They didn't really know what I was talking about.
You'll love this part. We have a former co-host who's a channeler, kind of like Esther Hicks channels Abraham.
Oh, okay.
He's a channeler, and he has been able to do it pretty much since he was a kid. Went through periods where he was kind of coming to terms with it and just turning it off, and I don't want to have anything to do with it, and all this kind of stuff. Went through the whole thing. But at one point in his early teens, he came from a really horrible background, wrong side of the tracks, in a town where everybody was on the right side of the tracks except for him. So he had all these goals to aim for. And he ended up using law of attraction principles as taught to him by the source that he received messages from.
So cool.
How to actually get all the stuff that he wanted in his life. And he actually thought that he had invented the law of attraction.
Well, I guess I kind of thought so too, but I just didn't give it that title. And I wasn't Esther Hicks, and I wasn't channeling, but it all comes from source anyway, right? It's all coming.
I was going to say, to an extent,
whatever
you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. It I'm very intuitive, and it just made sense. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
You made me ask myself, had I ever taught the law of attraction before watching The Secret? Because that was where I learned it from, The Secret. And I'm thinking about everybody I've ever said, you got to see it before you do it. That's been one of my favorite phrases. This is from the movie Any Given Sunday. And I've been telling that to people forever. And more, my mindset behind it was dream big, as opposed to you got to repetitiously do it until you get it. I didn't have that down packed until I saw The Secret. So yeah, I'm thinking about everyone I've tried to push. You got to see it before you do it. Like, don't think like that. You got to at least be able to see it. And there's been a bunch of people that I was teaching it to before.
That's awesome.
I knew about the law of attraction. That's dope. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So my very first book, self-improvement book that I read was Wayne Dyer, rest in peace. And it was When You Believe It, You'll See It. Something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That is the title.
Is that the title? When You Believe It? I'm sure I have it somewhere. It was a paperback, and it was really like, it was just, I had gone through it so much that it looked a mess. But that was my introduction, and it just, well, yeah.
That's my audio book for the week. now hold on. I have to ask you. You said books on tapes earlier. Are you telling me that there was audiobooks before the internet?
What a question. I love that.
I had to, it was just been bugging me ever since. I'm like, wait a minute, this thing has been out before audible.com. Like,
so I don't know if that's a book on tape. That was a book. So what was I listening to? I would run with my CD player, and I had CDs. That was the books on tape. They were all on CDs.
Right.
They had books on CDs. That's dope. I didn't know that.
Wow,
that's how I got exposed to Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins did his entire Unlimited Power book on cassettes, and I had the whole cassette collection. I think I still have it somewhere.
I just got rid of my Tony Robbins. It was like this big. It was like 10 different things.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was all CD. So I had the CD version.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would listen to those. And then, yes, at some point, I ran the 2006 Marine Corps Marathon, and, I don't know. I thought I was getting it on my phone, but maybe not. Maybe it was a Walkman. I don't know.
No, because
Neo, do you know what a Walkman is?
Yes, I had a Walkman.
Okay.
Got it from the dollar store. So it was $1.
There you go.
And I got it. I don't know how much they cost when they first came out.
They're a little more than that.
But back then, $1 was a lot, though. You know,
This is true.
That's dope.
Yes, it was.
I was also thinking too about my own. I can't claim to have taught law of attraction before The Secret, because I didn't even understand it yet when The Secret came out. But I was exposed to it long before, because back in the early 1980s, I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and had no idea what he was talking about. None whatsoever. I was lost. He would write segments like, if you understand what it is I'm talking to, I don't have to explain it to you. And I said, yeah, I don't understand it. You got to explain it to me. I don't get this.
Well, it was probably like many people that read or watched The Secret or read the book, because it's in both formats now. There were so many people, it's funny, that were probably sitting there like, and like really just thinking that they were going to like win the lottery, and then they wouldn't win the lottery, and like, oh, this stuff doesn't work. Right. But what people failed to recognize, and that The Secret may not have, or maybe could have done a better job explaining, that was just an introduction. Like this, it's not the end all. That's an introduction to the law of attraction.
Once I got done, I saw The Secret, I think March 11th, 2008, a couple of days after my birthday. And immediately I went to the internet and I said, what's the next step? I want to know more about this. And the first thing I saw was Oprah Winfrey video. And she said that The Secret was just the icing on top of the cake. And I was like, ooh, what's the cake? And that's what led me to meditating, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And, I forget what other books, but yeah, that's what took me down that road. So yeah, you gotta first experience that. I wanted to say though, for me, where I grew up in the hood in New Jersey, and they don't dream big at all. The only thing they want is to be able to pay rent and electric this month, and gas, because it's cold.
Right.
Ain't no gas in Florida. We don't have that down here, which is weird. But yeah, so what I did, I noticed that people in the most unlikeliest, messed up situations still made rent every month. Somehow they still made rent. And settling and dreaming small is not, I just wasn't built for that. So I noticed those two things. They're always making rent no matter what. And I'm always dreaming a little bit bigger and getting what I want. So both of us are getting what I want. I just have to raise what I want. And I think that was what kind of set the tone, the pace for me to creep up and learn the law of attraction little by little. And then seeing The Secret just pretty much opened my eyes. It just was all the puzzle pieces I was missing. And it lined up so many instances in my life. I was like, oh my God, yeah, I remember. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was just a beautiful thing. But yeah, that really stood out to me when you said that. The people around you have to, you got to learn from them. You got to learn sometimes it's what not to do. Michael Jordan says he learns from every single player he's played against. Yeah. And sometimes it was what not to do, but every single player he learned something from. And that's sharp, being able to learn, keeping in the mindset of learning.
Absolutely.
Well, and that you raise such a great point, because so often in life, it's not, you want to learn the lessons that'll bring you forward. You also have to pay attention to what not to do so you don't repeat those, because we're so wired in certain ways. And if your mindset is such that, there's any sort of tweaking that needs to be done, by doing that is going to help you the next time around.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this real quick before I get it. No, don't forgot it. Walt, you messed me up because you was about to say something. What were you going to say? You got me interested in what you were saying. I lost it.
No, I was just saying that the wiring is key. And we were talking about actually on the show a couple days ago, how that wiring can be so deeply ingrained that even when you do the work on yourself, it can be a major ordeal to move it in some way, to let go of it, replace it, write over it like a new tape. I mean, however you want to look at it, there are some of these things that we carry with us that are just, they stick to you like static cling, and they can just be hard to get rid of.
Dendrites. Have you ever heard of dendrites?
Mm-hmm.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
For those who haven't, just picture grass at the bottom of an ocean waving. And Walt, correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, but there are things on the surface of our brain that are basically like waving like that. Yeah. And there's electricity going through them because they latch on to things that are passing by. So, and every now and then, two dendrites latch onto each other. And I'll give you an example of this. Let's say you're at a hot dog stand and you order this hot dog, it's good, it's juicy, you're about to bite into it, and a fender bender happens behind you. And, you look at it, okay, everyone's okay, you eat your hot dog. 6 years later, you don't eat hot dogs no more. It's not that you don't like them, just those two dendrites connected and have not disconnected. So disconnecting those dendrites through things like neurofeedback are ways to physically get rid of and clear old narratives quickly. I learned that from Elizabeth Gold, and she really, we did a live stream, and afterwards we had a little therapy session. She's coming to the summit. You guys will see her there. But yes, dendrites, do your research. And if you can disconnect dendrites through a machine called neurofeedback, then you can also manifest it using the power of the law of attraction without the machine. Just switch up your affirmations. Mm-hmm. So just want to share
so
that.
Much. Thank you. I love that. And I had not heard that before, and I'll definitely be looking into that for sure. But we have so many stories that we make up about our childhood, things that happened from our childhood. Mm. And you can easily rewrite that story because you remember things. Did it really happen that way? Maybe it did, but we can rewrite those stories so that because you have to remember that every time something happens, our first response is always going to be emotional, but it's also your response is coming from something that you've already experienced in the past. So it's just kind of being aware of that. And when you have that thing that comes up, here's an example. When I was in 5th grade, I loved doing art. I took a project to the teacher and she looked at me and she said, "That's terrible." Okay. Well, first of all, what teacher would tell an 11-year-old that it's terrible?
You must have went to school in New Jersey.
I mean, but I've carried that with me for so long, and I never even really realized, but that I was a very creative child. that stunted my creativity because it was somebody that I looked up to told me that it was terrible. And I carried that with me for years. So you have to ask yourself, is it true? You know, and I think, oh, I can't do art. No. Is it true? No, it's not true. You know, and at some point in my life, when I have some time when I can actually devote a few hours a week, I am going to start painting and start fostering in that part that I've always wanted to do. So, you know, it's about asking yourself, is that true? Because so often it's not true. It's just a story we made up or something somebody else told me.
I had one teacher that used to always say, you're never going to be able to read at this pace, or you're never going to learn it at this pace. And she would always say that to me. And I have to clear that out. I have to clear that out of my head. And I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned this earlier, we all know how to be positive. We all know how to wake up out of it, especially people who are into the law of attraction. But for those who are new to it, how do you maintain that? How do you maintain that throughout the day? And what I mean is not just waking up, but waking up more often. You know, with the rat race, that's harder to do. You go a whole 2 days without doing an affirmation. You're like, oh man. So waking up, but not only waking up more often, staying in that good headspace. Cause you know, the ego's coming. The ego's coming. So how do you stay there?
Okay. So I wouldn't talk about this on any other, some shows, but I will on this one. I used to focus on gratitude and, you know, oh, you know, things can always be worse, and just sit there and really focus on everything that I have to be grateful for. And I still do that because that's important. It's just with that, it's more of like a surface. It's a surface thing. It can be putting a Band-Aid. If you're having repetitive negative thoughts, for example, and you gratitude your way out of it, it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid. You're not really clearing or cleaning that negativity out of your life. Mm-hmm. So I went to Hawaii earlier this year, and I was reintroduced to an ancient Hawaiian healing practice. Well, you're smiling. You probably know what I'm going to say.
I am.
And I'm obsessed with it, and I use it all the time. And it's Ho'oponopono.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you. I love you. That's what it is, right?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. No, it's, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. It doesn't really matter the order. It doesn't matter the order. That's the order that makes sense to me, because you're saying, I love you to creator, source, God, whoever you refer to that as. I'm sorry. You know, you're admitting that something was off. Please forgive me. And then the thank you is the gratitude. So I use that all the time I'm a little worried I'm becoming a little OCD with it, because it's such a thing that I just go through, because I want so badly to just constantly be elevating my frequency and my level of consciousness, because I have so many amazing, incredible, big things to do in this life. And I don't want these, you know, here's the thing. We have 60,000 thoughts every single day. Mm-hmm. How many would you say are negative? How many negative thoughts would you say we have a day on average?
How much time do we have to count them?
Yeah, just guess. What do you think?
It depends on what you got in your regular tape flow, but I would say like
20,000, 10,000 for me.
Would you say, Walt?
I'd say 80% of them.
You are correct. 80%. 80% of our thoughts every day are negative. That's about 48,000 thoughts. Now, here's the problem with this. And I learned this from one of my podcast guests. This is not my research, but the research is out there. He learned it from research. The problem with that is that tomorrow, 95% of the negative thoughts that you had today are going to still be there. And it's going to keep going day after day after day. So that's why it's so important. And that's why I'm obsessed with Ho'oponopono, because I really want to just every day. The thoughts are, they're going to come in, but I'm going to get rid of them just as quickly as they come in, because I've got big stuff to do. And I so believe in the law of attraction. And if I keep thinking any of these negative thoughts, I'm just going to be pushing away what I really am trying so hard to pull into my reality.
I've adapted. I want you to try this too. I've adapted the concept. I don't fear death. Obviously, I'm a pilot. I'm the cop in the most dangerous city in America. I've been in a bunch of situations. When it's time, it's time. I've accepted every part of life. The only thing I fear is my negative thoughts. And because it's the only thing I fear, when they start, I notice them sooner than later, which means I can do my shift, whether it's go outside, breathe, affirmation, whatever I do after that. But I notice them right away. Yep. And that's where I was like, I got to get myself to that point, because coming from the hood and working in the hood, they were constant, and I needed to flex this muscle to work differently. So I love that. I love that so much. I'm not at 80%. I think I'm at about 75% positive, 25% what ifs.
I believe that, actually. I believe that.
I'm going up to 80.
Just from knowing you in the time that I've known you, I believe that. Because if you're anything at all like you are here on the program, that makes total sense to me.
You know what? I'm going to move that number to 86, because he made me think just now. 86 is a more in it. Yeah, that's a more appropriate.
And I totally agree with you, because I don't think that I have that many negative thoughts every day.
I don't think any of us.
There's a lot that goes on that we're not even aware of, though. But yeah, I mean, because I do the work and I don't even care about the numbers, don't matter to me. And you know what I mean? But I love the humor that you put into it. So yeah, I mean, if you're doing the work, I don't think it's that much.
I'll say this. I think that we all probably do have that many thoughts, but the real question isn't whether we have them. The question is whether we give them any energy and attention. If we give them attention, then they become a deal. Right. So I was taking a walk today, and I was listening to a recording that I made. I went through a really cool NLP neurotherapy type thing with a former guest who was on the show about 3 weeks ago, and she was wonderful, Janet Schmidt. She's going to be back too. But I was listening to this tape because we had kind of crafted it for exactly what I need. And so this is like, okay, this is how I'm going to just, reprogram myself as I do my daily walk. And I was noticing that even as I was listening to the tape, my mind was going off in all these different directions that I didn't want to go into, but I wasn't giving any of them any attention. Mm-hmm. That terrible thing. No, thanks. That terrible thing. No, thanks. That really uncomfortable thing. No, thanks. I wasn't going to buy into any of them. And listening to the tape was making a difference. It was helping me to do that. But it was also, I think this is where the work comes in. When you do the work long enough, yeah, they're out there. You just don't give them the energy you gave them before.
Right.
Yeah. Like a bunch
That's absolutely correct.
Dogs jumping on your leg, trying to get you. No, I'm working right now.
Yeah.
Shoo them away like a child's antics. That's what they say in The Secret.
And ultimately where you're getting to, and I've been experiencing this to some degree, is you're getting to the point where you no longer think of them as negative. They just stop being negative after.
They're just scenarios that I didn't entertain.
Yeah. Now, most people, if you were to express them to somebody else, they'd say, well, that's really awful. But because you kind of worked out, you just don't see them that way anymore.
Walt, try this. And Sandee, try it too. But Walt, I want you to report back next week, please.
All right.
Look upward at a 45-degree angle until your eyelids get a little tired. Let them close. When they close, and again, in a meditative place, don't do this while you're driving. When they're closed.
Yes. Keep your eyes on the road, folks.
When you get, count backwards from 100 in twos. I have learned so much about my mind. I've only been, the Silva mind control method is where I got this from. Mm-hmm. The guy does the things in the beginning of some YouTube videos, commercial, whatever. But it's really interesting because you learn so much about yourself. Like I might make it to 92 before my mind goes somewhere. And I'm like, whoa, come back. All right. What was the last number I remember? 92, 90, 88. And then I'm off somewhere else. But there's other days where I go through the whole entire, set of numbers. And I was just laser focused on the number. And I was able to get through the whole thing. And I'm like, wow, I'm getting better at, So try that and see where it takes you. After you do that, once you hit 0, you're supposed to picture something really vividly in front of you, like not right there, but like 6 feet in front of you on a screen in orange, but just in detail. Its smell, the way the curvatures, whatever, it's got a leaf on it, picture it in detail. And start off with that and then, eventually insert, you doing whatever it is you want to be doing with your life, your goal or whatever, into that picture. But yes, try this counting backwards thing and let me know how it works out for you.
I love that.
That sounds like a very cool method. Yeah.
It's supposed to be like the beginning of using mind control on yourself.
Well, it's also a way of testing how far you've come so far. We often don't even realize if you do work on yourself for a while, it can feel like you're spinning your wheels after a time. Like, but on the same note, doing anything here, but then you do an exercise like that and you realize, oh, wow, I can tell where I'm holding my attention. I can tell where I'm losing my attention. I can see the progress.
But the only problem with that is some days you'll make it to 0 and some days you won't make it to 92. And so you can't really gauge how far you've come because it's just what's going on in your day.
To me, it's not about whether or not you hit a certain number. It's how frequently you're able to hold your attention. To me, that's the way I look at it. So there are going to be some days where I hold my attention really well. Other days I hold it less well. But I can kind of see the aggregate over time. If I were to compare where I am right now to where I was, say, 10, 15 years ago, magnificent difference, gigantic difference. Could I quantify it in terms of, I can hold it to 86? No, that doesn't really work. But I can feel a huge amount of ability to focus that I didn't have before.
It's like hitting the gym for your mind.
Yeah.
Neo, what is the name of that again? What is that called?
The Silva Mind Control Method.
Okay.
Jose Silva, he's the only person that they've considered to have been able to teach mind control. He's taught over 500,000 people ESP.
Okay.
Yeah, the book is insane. I haven't finished the whole thing yet, but what I've read.
When they say mind control, what do they mean by mind control? Do they mean controlling your own mind, trying to control somebody else? Control your own?
No, your own. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because
that's how you control other people.
When you say the phrase, it sounds like something out of science fiction. So that's why.
It does. But you know what? I did a video a long time ago. What was it? I thought it was called Controlling Others' Actions or something like that. Because I would coach people and they would be like, my boss is a douchebag. And I'd be like, all right, well, picture the last time he was good to everybody and good to you and just sit in that and he'll at least be nice. And they're like, well, he's never been good. Okay, well, picture an old boss. It doesn't have to be that one. And then they report back, oh my gosh, you actually gave me a compliment for the first time ever. And I'm like, there you go. Now you got something else to build on. Yeah. And so like stuff like that. And I use that for relationships too. It's kind of like, oh man, I'm going to find the video and post it. But yeah, it's controlling people's thoughts, but not their thoughts, their actions. It's weird. Collective energy.
Well, because we have a lot of influence. And that actually ties into something else I was going to bring up earlier. I'm not sure we really have the time to go into it because we only got about 7 minutes left. But when we were talking earlier about how you can have these negative thoughts and you get certain thoughts that just keep coming and coming and coming and coming and you feel like you can't even let go of them. One of the things that I've really been appreciative of lately is recognizing some of those thoughts aren't my own. Some of them come to me. Some of them come to me generationally. I've been really identifying a number of things that I have been carrying around in my life for a long time that come from my parents and from my grandparents and perhaps even my great-grandparents, although I don't know their stories. And it's mind-blowing because now that I've begun to understand and kind of recognize this is one of those thoughts that really isn't one of mine, it's strange. Because on the one hand, I feel like I'm the one who thought it. And on the other hand, I can tell that it really didn't originate with me. And I think it's actually part of the process of starting to separate yourself from it and learning to let go of this thing that you've been carrying around generationally.
Fastest way to let go and disassociate that voice that I've found is a book called Untethered Soul.
Oh, that's a great book.
Read that book and you will totally look at that voice differently. Like I don't look at that voice the same. I've taken all of its power.
I need to read that again.
Once you take its power, it's going to still come in and do its thing. But once again, instead of a dog jumping up on your leg that you have to shoo away, it's a voice, a hollow voice, saying words you don't even understand. It's easier to shoo away. The Untethered Soul, that book changed everything. Debbie G put me onto that book in December.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out then. Untethered Soul. Hey, we are running out of time. Before we go, we got to get a couple of pieces of information from Sandee, because first of all, you mentioned the book that has just come out. You mentioned to us off screen that there's something else coming out soon that you really can't tell us about. just yet, but you can at least tell us about you and your practice and your coaching and the services that you offer. So give people like a little bit of a lay of the land of,
Sure.
And your website real quick so I can make a banner. What's your website?
It's sandeesgarlata.com.
Yeah. It's about as straightforward as you're going to get.
So my second book was released last February, Happiness Solved, Climbing 100 Steps. And you can find that on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and certainly go to my website to get it. If your readers or listeners would like a PDF version, they can email me at sandeesgarlata.com and I'll send you the PDF for free.
Nice.
No issues there.
That's
so
beautiful.
so I can talk about the next book. It's not ready. I can talk about it. It's just, so I'm the co-author. It's my third book. It's called The Change, Insights into Self-Empowerment. And I'm one of roughly 20 other authors. It's produced by Jim Lutz and Jim Britt. So they're both international speakers, really great. Jim Britt was Tony Robbins' coach for the first 5 years of his, career. And the cool thing is that Les Brown wrote the foreword. And so the version that you will see on my website, if you go to my website, go to the books tab, there's a cover there. And I'm on the cover with Les Brown. So that one too, if you want to email me, I will certainly be happy to send you the free version, the PDF version once I get it. So that was really exciting. My chapter is called Happiness Solved, Change Your Perspective, Change Your Life.
Great title, by the way.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So right now, I offer mastermind groups. I do corporate training. I work with, I have all sorts of corporate trainings that I can do for companies on various topics, a lot of soft skills type things. And I also work with elite athletes, as a sports psychology coach because I am a U.S. national and international figure skating coach. So we
didn't even touch on that. That's in your book. I said, oh my God, wait a minute. Hold on.
I retired from that years ago when my son was a baby. And, but yeah, it was a great experience. So I was recruited by a local training facility to be their sports psychology coach. So I work with, some elite athletes in that, helping them just stay strong. And I actually have I have a brochure. I'm knocking things over. Mental toughness for athletes. You can see the little brain with the dumbbells.
With the barbells. Yeah, right. Okay.
I use that in one of my segments. I'm like, the brain is a muscle. It has muscle memory. Right. That's the thing there.
Yeah. I have some other really awesome things going on too. My podcast has been going great. That's called Happiness Solved. And that website is happinesssolved.com where you can see all of the episodes in one place.
How long have you been doing that one?
Episode 121 was released today.
Very good.
So episode 122 is released today, but I've recorded over 140 interviews so far.
Interview number 142, Neo-Positivity.
Well, you know what? We can make that happen just like that. So
you just put it out there. Yeah. Let's do it.
I was going to ask you anyway. So,
the energy, the collaboration is in the air. That's what Walt does.
That's the way it works. The law of attraction doesn't just deliver to you once. It keeps delivering over and over and over again until you say, okay, got it. Thank you. Well, I can tell you this. We really got it with you, Sandee. This was just a wonderful visit. Thank you so much for joining us.
So much fun.
Thank you for sharing your insights, your wisdom, and something I've been really making a point of doing. I keep saying this as a reminder to myself every time. On behalf of all the people who have heard you and seen you, who you'll never see and you'll never meet, I want to thank you on their behalf. Because we don't really hear from those people, but there are many people that you have positively influenced. And you won't ever see it. You won't ever know that it's there, but you can know in your mind, in your heart, it actually is there, that those people are being helped, that they are finding things in what you're saying and what you're teaching that's really beneficial in their lives. So on their behalf, thank you for what you do.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Nobody's ever said that. So thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. Neil, thank you for being here. Hey, this is great. We got a chance to catch up again. I love that.
Yes. And real quick before we go, Neo-Positivity's Thoughts Become Things Summit is tomorrow, August 20th from noon to 4 p.m. right here in StreamYard. And like I said, great roundtable discussion of law of attraction tips and secrets. Don't miss it, you guys.
Going to be good stuff. So thank you very much. Thank you to your speakers as well. Thank you to live streamers. We saw Debbie had actually tuned in, even though she couldn't join us today. So hey, Deb. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.